वेलकम फ्रेंड्स। यूजीसी नेट मैनेजमेंट कोड 17 का पेपर फॉर दिसंबर 2022 सेशन जो कि हुआ था 12th ऑफ मार्च 2023 को। दिसंबर 2022 का सेशन का पेपर फॉर कोड 17 मैनेजमेंट वाज कंडक्टेड ऑन 12th ऑफ मार्च 2023। आज हम क्या करेंगे, इस वाले पेपर का विल गो थ्रू द डिटेल्ड सॉल्यूशन। इस पेपर में सारे के सारे विल गो थ्रू 100 क्वेश्चंस वन बाय वन एंड विल अंडरस्टैंड कि किसका क्या आंसर है और साथ में उसका क्या एक्सप्लेनेशन है। आपको उससे डिफिकल्टी लेवल का भी अच्छा खासा एकदम आइडिया मिलेगा। बिफोर वी स्टार्ट विद दैट क्वेश्चन बाय क्वेश्चन, और जिसको हमारी पूरी टीम मिलके करेगी, uh, I want you to tell two, three things. Number one, if you want to understand how you guys can prepare for Code 17 management with human peritas, तो वेबसाइट के होम पेज पे जाके there is a link management code 17, you can go over here. अगर आपको मैनेजमेंट कोड 17 के लिए सिलेबस क्या है, पुराने पेपर डाउनलोड करने हैं, कट ऑफ एनालिसिस, एलिजिबिलिटी, यू कैन गो थ्रू ऑल दीज थिंग्स आल्सो फॉर बोथ पेपर 1 एंड पेपर 2, यहाँ मैनेजमेंट कोड 17। सिमिलरली पिछले सालों में हाउ वाज द पेपर, व्हाट हैज बीन द ट्रेंड और पेपर का डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस, वो भी आप यहीं यूजीसी नेट के लिए फॉर कोड 17 मैनेजमेंट के लिए यू कैन गो थ्रू दिस। इसके अलावा इफ यू एनी क्वेरीज, एनीथिंग व्हिच यू वांट टू आस्क, आपको डिस्कस करना चाहते हो, यू आर वेलकम। देयर इज अ लिंक गिवन in the description below. That link will connect you directly with our team via WhatsApp chat. आप उस पर क्लिक कर दीजिए, get connected and do let us know whatever you feel like. guys, शुरू करते हैं एक एक करके एंड सारे क्वेश्चन हम लोग करते हैं। डिमांड और सप्लाई कर्व हमें दिया हुआ है इस वाले सवाल में, और हमें निकालना है कि इक्विलिब्रियम पे कितना डिमांड होगा। जब इक्विलिब्रियम पॉइंट कब आएगा, व्हेन डिमांड इज इक्वल टू सप्लाई। 20 + 2p, वी गेट 5p इज इक्वल टू 10 एंड p इज इक्वल टू 2। और इस 2 की वैल्यू को अगर मैं सब्स्टिट्यूट कर दूंगा किसी भी इक्वेशन में, 20 इंटू 2 इंटू 2, इट कम्स 24। करेक्ट आंसर इज सी। Next one, as per CAPM model, the required return on a security is very well-known formula. Required return is what? Return on treasury bond, or you can say government bond, plus market risk premium. Correct answer is A. Next one, a firm can delay and favorably affect the control of its cash disbursement during what? Working capital management. It can be done by multiple zero balance accounts. Next one, this is a question on cost of acquiring a firm. Guys, हमें इस वाले सवाल में हमें क्या दिया हुआ है, that market price of A and B are given, the number of share of A and B are given, market value भी दिया है दोनों का। If merger is expected to bring gains at a value of rupees 10 million and firm A offers 1 share for every 2 share of firm B. अब firm B कितने शेयर हैं? 5 लाख। अगर हम एक शेयर ऑफर करेंगे फर्म ए का फॉर दिस 5 लाख शेयर, इसका मतलब हम 2.5 लाख शेयर हम लोग ऑफर करेंगे फर्म ए के। और 2.5 की वैल्यू कितनी है? हर एक शेयर फर्म ए का कितने का है? 50 रुपए का है, इंटू 50। इसका मतलब द टोटल मनी विच द फर्म ए विल बी पेइंग इज 125 लाख। ठीक है। और जो गेन्स है वो कितने? 100 मिलियन, विच इज नथिंग बट 100 लाख। 125 लाख हम उस पर खर्च करेंगे, 100 मिलियन का गेन मिलेगा। द कॉस्ट ऑफ अपरेंट कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्वायरिंग विल बी 125 minus 100, which is 25 lakhs, and correct answer will be D. Next one, a cold drink bottle. A cold drink bottling plant fills bottle of 500 ml capacity with mean of 500 and standard deviation of 5. At least what percentage of bottle would contain the cold drink between 490 to 510 ml? Guys, normal distribution का काफी आसान सवाल है। Our mean is 500 और हमें क्या निकालना है? The value between 490 to 510 एंड स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन इज 5। इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब है कि 2 स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन इधर और 2 ही स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन इधर। अब नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में बिटवीन +- 2 स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन, दिस एरिया इज इक्वल टू व्हाट? दिस इज इक्वल टू 95% ऑफ द टोटल एरिया। नेक्स्ट वन, Carl Pearson coefficient of variation, which measures what? Dispersion or variation, is measuring with characteristics. It measures out of them. The best option is it measures consistency. So correct answer is C. For a project activity, optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely times are given, and we have to find out its average time. So guys, average time में हम क्या करते हैं? Optimistic time plus pessimistic time plus 4 times most likely time divide by 6. फॉर्मूले में अगर रखेंगे 4 plus 14 plus 4 times 6 divide by 6, and it comes out to be 7 days. Correct answer is B. Next one, in decision analysis, the expected value of perfect information is what? It is given by expected payoff without perfect information minus expected payoff without experimentation or without the probability. Which of the following statement are applicable to value-based pricing concept? So guys, if you will go through this, then your A, B, C are true, D is not true, and E is true, and therefore correct answer becomes A. Which of the following are characteristics of core competency? So guys, core competency के क्या क्या होते हैं? Difficult to imitate. Different business in the occupation must be similar in at least one important way. The core competency must enhance competitive advantage. So A, B, C, all of them are there. And diversification नहीं करेगा. Must leverage business is competing to reduce the business cost. Although E also looks to be true, लेकिन हमें given options अगर हमें उसमें से देखना है, so A, B, C will be true. Although E can also be true. Okay, next one. Which of the following are characteristics of कार्ल पियर्सन कोफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन? सो गाइज, अभी थोड़ी देर पहले हम लोगों ने कंसिस्टेंसी तो हम लोगों ने अभी देखा ही था. उसके अलावा डिस्पैरिटी एंड यूनिफॉर्मिटी, ये भी सेम ही चीज मेजर करता है, विच इज नथिंग बट डिस्पर्सन और वेरिएशन. देयरफॉर करेक्ट आंसर इज ए. नेक्स्ट वन, इक्वालिटी ऑफ दो मीन्स हम कैसे कंपेयर कर सकते हैं? पैरामीट्रिक टेस्ट, टी टेस्ट, और अगर नॉन पैरामीट्रिक टेस्ट करना है तो मैन विटनी यू टेस्ट, एंड देयरफॉर करेक्ट आंसर इज बी. As per DuPont equation for ROI, other thing remain question, which one is false? So guys, एक बार we can also write our DuPont equation, which is given by that my ROE is equal to net income divided by sales into sale divided by total asset into total asset divided by shareholder equity. ठीक है. इसमें जो पहले वाला फ्रैक्शन है, इसको हम लोग क्या बोलते हैं? इसको बोलते हैं नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन. दूसरे वाले को हम लोग बोलते हैं एसेट टर्नओवर, और तीसरे वाले को हम लोग बोलते हैं इक्विटी मल्टीप्लायर. ठीक है. अब अगर हम एक एक करके अपने इक्वेशंस देखेंगे, एंड वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट विच वन इज फॉल्स. एन इंक्रीज इन नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन, एन इंक्रीज इन नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन विल इंक्रीज आरओआई, बिल्कुल ठीक है. अ डिक्रीज इन डेट टू एसेट रेशियो, डेट का तो इसमें कुछ बीच में आता ही नहीं है काम, तो नॉट रेलेवेंट. अ डिक्रीज इन रिटर्न ऑफ एसेट विल डिक्रीज आरओआई, बिल्कुल ठीक है. अगर बीच वाला पोर्शन घटेगा तो आरओआई घटेगा. इंक्रीज इन एवरेज एसेट टर्नओवर विल इंक्रीज आरओआई, ठीक है. इंक्रीज इन इक्विटी मल्टीप्लाई आरओआई, ठीक है. देयरफॉर ए, सी, डी एंड ई आर ट्रू, एंड ओनली बी इज फॉल्स. हमें फॉल्स बताना था. करेक्ट आंसर इज ए. We have to match the following. So guys, critical path क्या होता है? Longest path through the project network. उसके बाद what is the project network? It is nothing but nodes and number of arcs that connect different nodes. So this becomes my project network. Then what is crashing of activity? So taking special costly measure to reduce the duration is known as crashing of activity. And fourth one is what? Then we have our crash point. So crash point is nothing but it shows the time and cost when activity is fully crashed, which is part B. Correct answer is option B. Arrange the steps of human resources management. So this is given, the first one is A, then we have B, then we have D, then we have A, and then we have C, and correct answer is B. Quite theoretical in nature, nothing to explain. So what is a good business plan? So what are its sequential steps? So steps are E, C, A, B, and D, and E, C, A, B, and D. Correct answer is C. Product of two regression coefficient equal to R square and cannot exceed 1. बिल्कुल ठीक है, because guys we know that BXY into BXY is equal to R square, और क्योंकि R का वैल्यू कैन बी बिटवीन +1 to -1, इसलिए R square will always be between 0 to 1. Therefore इसकी मैक्सिमम वैल्यू 1 ही हो सकती है. Statement 1 is correct. Similarly, the average of regression coefficient is always greater than coefficient correlation. ये भी ठीक है. So both of them are correct. Therefore, correct answer is A. 89. If securities with less than okay, if the securities with less than perfect negative correlation between their price movement or combined portfolio risk will get reduced significantly. The term with negative correlation has the effect of reducing the computed value of total portfolio risk, given that other terms are positive, and R is explaining what is given in A. Therefore, both A and R are correct, and correct answer is A.
Accounting principles are generally based on practicability. Practicability here means that they are easy to be applied in all real world situations. Okay, so they should not be too rigid that they cannot be used as the situation demands. So accounting principles are generally based on practicability. So answer to this question is option A. Okay, now this question says that ABC Limited produces two products X and Y, and each unit takes 5 hours and 10 hours for X and Y, and 1000 units of X and 600 units of Y were produced. Actual man hours are given at 10,000 and yearly budgeted hours are stated at 96,000. We need to find out activity ratio. So for activity ratio, what we have to do? Standard hours, right, for actual output divided by budgeted hours into 100, right? Okay, so this is going to bring us activity ratio. So here what information is given to us? Here it says that uh, monthly production of X, Y, that is, it is given as 1000 units and it is given as 600 units, and it takes 5 hours to produce 1 unit of X. So total of 5000 hours will be used to produce X, total of X units, and similarly here it takes 10 units to produce one single unit of Y. Total of, it means 6000 hours will be used to produce Y, right? So this gives us 11,000. So this is what? This is standard hours to produce actual output. Okay, so here comes my figures of standard hours. Now budgeted hours, they have given us yearly. On yearly basis, they are giving us budgeted hours. This I'm talking about, right? So, so if yearly is 96,000 budgeted hours, then per month would be 8,000, right? So by putting these value in the formula, what we will achieve? We will simply achieve our activity ratio. So standard hours is 11,000, budgeted hours per month is 8,000 divided by 100. That gives us the value of 137.50%. That is option B as correct answer, right? Next is computation of overhead absorption rates should be based on. So overhead absorption, if we are talking about, it means that what actually it is, it's a process of allocating indirect cost to cost of goods sold. So right, so we need to find out overhead absorption rates for the same, and to be more realistic, such kind of absorption should be based on the normal capacity, right? So no maximum capacity, practical capacity or idle capacity should be used. Rather, normal capacity should be used to allocate uh, overhead cost to the cost of goods sold, right? So correct option to this question is answer D. Okay. Operating budget consists of two parts called as budget and dash budget. So which are the two types of budget which are there in operating budget? That is why program and responsibility budgets are there. So what actually a program budget? Program budget is basically that budget that identifies costs associated with the specific programs. And what actually a responsibility budget? Responsibility budget assigns responsibility of specific expenses to the individual managers, right? So these two together makes operating budget. So correct option to this question is C. Okay. Which of the following forms of purchasing power parity states that changes in spot rates over a period of time reflects the changes in price levels over the same period in the currencies of the concerned economies? So basically purchasing power parity, what the theory it is, it basically concerned with providing us exchange rates between two currencies. It basically I'm doing this question again. So the question is, which of the following forms of purchasing power parity states that changes in spot rates over a period of time reflects the changes in price levels over the same period in the currencies of the concerned economies? So basically the question is from purchasing power parity. So according to this theory, exchange rates between two currencies should be adjusted to reflect the differences in the price levels of the two countries, two respective countries, right? So, what is stated in the question? That is the relative form of the purchasing power parity. Okay, fine. So, the correct answer to this question is option A. Okay, another question is an outlet which starts as a journal retailer grows into a specialized retailer and in course of time becomes even a bigger journal retailer. So this is nothing but this is which theory of retail? This is retail accordion theory of retail. Okay, so correct answer to this question is option B. Okay, next is which one of the following is not a non-tariff barrier? So what we actually have to find in this question that which is a tariff barrier, right? So because they are asking not a non-tariff barrier, which means they are asking us tariff barrier. So out of this, combined rate is a tariff barrier. Others are non-tariff barriers. So combined rate basically is a method used to calculate the custom duty on the imported goods. So the correct answer to this question is C. Okay, which of the following marketing strategy falls under geocentric kind of international orientation? So if we are talking about international orientations, if we look at the options, extension of domestic strategy to foreign markets, it refers to ethnocentric approach, right? Localization, if we talk about, it refers to regiocentric strategy or orientation, right? Trade-off between localization and standardization. This is reflected through polycentric approach. And global standardization is basically our geocentric. So correct option to this question is answer B. Okay, LC Gupta's sickness prediction model primarily focused on which of the following? Basically, this model is a statistical model to predict the financial health of the firm, right? And it focuses on relationship between EBIT, earning before interest and taxes, and operating cash flows, just to predict the possibility of a firm becoming financially distressed, right? So, correct answer to this question is option C. Okay, according to Max Weber, in an ideal bureaucracy, so what are the features of an ideal bureaucracy according to Max Weber? So if we look at the options, all the first four options, A, B, C, and D, they are the ideal, they are the features of ideal bureaucracy. So the fifth one is not included, right? Okay, this one. So correct answer to this question is option A. Okay, next question is which of the following are feed forward control measures for reducing workplace violence? So out of the five options given, we have to find out what are the feed forward types of control measures, right? So what is feed forward control measures? Basically, they prevent deviations in the goals before their occurrence after identifying them, right? So before their occurrence, the deviations are prevented. So what kind of statements are reflecting feed forward control measures here? Basically, your B and D statement, that is train employees about how to avoid danger if situation arises. So it is doing the prevention before its occurrence. Again, option D is working towards prevention before occurrence of any severe situation. That is clearly communicating policies to the employees, right? So if we talk about option A, investigate incidences and take appropriate action, that falls into the category of reactive control measure, right? Review company policies. If we have to talk about C option, review company policies and change these policies if necessary. This is nothing but this is corrective sort of control measure. Observe how employees treat and interact with each other. So this is concurrent control measure. Okay. So correct option to this question is option C. Okay, next. Which of the following are the sources of ethical problems in organization? So basically, if we look at the options, the sources of ethical problems is they are failure of personal character, right? So whenever there is a failure of personal character, it means the person is not having a personal character, means he might indulge in any kind of stealing or lying with the organization. So there could be any ethical problem which may arise in the organization. So if we look at the option B, organizational goals. So if there is any conflict between the organizational goals and social values, then also there can be ethical problems, right? For example, the organizational goals are just to make profits at any cost, whereas social value says that we should not harm anyone in the society. So there is a conflicting interest, right? So again, there would be a ethical problem. And similarly, whenever there is a conflict of personal values and organizational goals, uh, that can also lead to ethical problems in the organization. So correct answer to this question is C, that is A, B, and E, right? Okay, which of the following are construed for government intervention to support entrepreneurship and small firms? So government intervention to support entrepreneurship and small firms, what are the basic actions? That is stimulating demand and new venture creation in the emerging sectors. So that will boost the entrepreneurship and help small firms to emerge successfully, right? And then help firms to adopt new technology. So whenever they are going to adopt new technology, so this can help them to avoid any kind of market failure to proceed in the market, right? And then we have supporting women participation in business and high tech firms. So how could this lead to support entrepreneurship and small firms? Because this would be bringing in more diversity in the firms and other the more the the perspective of looking at things from the different angle, right? So this is going to support entrepreneurship and small firms, right? So the correct answer to this question is option C. Okay. Which of the following comprises the interdependent troika of waste, overburden, and unevenness in the lean manufacturing? Very straightforward question from the lean manufacturing. Okay, so here if you look at the options, so muri, muda and mura, these are the things which are in the lean manufacturing. Muri is overburden, right? Because they are referring overburden here. Okay, and muda is waste and mura is our unevenness. So correct option to this question is ACE, that is D, right? Okay. Next question is, which of the following are considered as the principal standards in the ISO series developed by the International Organization for Standardization? Actually, why this answer has been highlighted, because uh, uh, as on April 2023, ISO 9000, 9001, 2 and 4, they have been published. All these have been published, right? And this 9003, this is basically withdrawn, right? So accordingly, the answer is not correct as per the UGC answer key. Okay, so however they have given B as answer, but we don't think so that this is the correct answer given by the UGC. Okay. Okay. Next is, identify the correct statement in context of equity financing. So now they want to identify you to give the correct statements referring to equity financing. So look at the options. First says borrowing limit increases as a consequence of increase in number of shares. Is this correct? Yes. So whenever there is equity financing, the financing base of capital base of a company increases. So that is why there is always scope of increasing borrowing limits, right? So this is a correct statement. Ordinary shares are generally not redeemable. Yes, this is also correct. Issue of new shares dilutes the EPS if the profits do not increase immediately in proportion to increase in the number of shares. So this is also correct. So whenever there is issue of new shares, if the profit does not increase, that is definitely going to dilute the earning per share. Okay. And a company is not legally obliged to pay dividend. Okay. So this is also correct. Ordinary shares are less riskier from investors' perspective. So this statement is not correct. Okay. So this statement is not correct because there is no certainty with respect to earning of dividends or any capital gain on the sale of the shares, right? So they are not less risky. Okay. So accordingly, the correct answer to this question is, that is B. Okay. So in this question, we have to match up various investment decision rules with their respective features based on their consistency or flexibility or inflexibility. So NPV goes with balance between flexibility and consistency. Payback method, if you have to talk about, payback method is highly inflexible, right? And our cash returns, that goes with relatively, they are relatively consistent, right? And accounting returns, they are insufficiently consistent because they are based on accounting methods, so they are not consistent sometimes. So that is why this goes with accounting returns. Okay, so accordingly the correct answer is option C. Okay, now we have to match up theories, various theories with its with their concepts. Okay, so if we look at the options, we can find out that the hint of the answer is given in the options itself. So look for the options. Theory of absolute advantage. So here they are giving you the hint. So theory of absolute advantage says countries should specialize in the production of goods for which they have absolute advantage, right? And theory of comparative advantage, again there is a hint that nations should produce those goods for which they have the greatest relative advantage. So comparative is going with the relative advantage. Okay. So if we look at the fourth option, factor endowment. So the range of products made or grown for export would depend upon the relative availability of different factors in each country. Again, there's a hint to it. So mercantilism says, uh, as per this theory, gold and silver are the mainstay of the national wealth. So as per this, the correct option which goes for this question is option C. Okay. Now what we have to do, we have to arrange the steps of developing an organizational structure in sequence. So again, if we look at options, we'll be able to find out the first step very easily, because in most of the steps, first of all, if there is any step which talks about defining the objectives, that can be on the topmost priority, right? So here it says clearly defines the objectives to determine the type, stability, and basic characteristics. So this is our first thing. And then we have, after doing this, what we have to do, we have to enumerate and group the activities according to the determined objectives. Okay, then that is A. This will be followed by B. Then after this, what we have to do, we have to assign the grouped activities to personnel, and similar functions should be combined into one position. So this is third. And then after that, we have to determine the span of supervision, type of organization, basis of departmentation, pattern of authority, structure, and last but not the least, we have to assess the capacity and abilities of human and other resources at the disposal of the enterprise, and then adapt the organization in sync with the reality. Okay. So as per this, option A is the right answer to this question. Okay. Arrange the following in the increasing order of employee participation in decision making. So we have to arrange these measures of employee participation in decision making in their increasing order. So work committee is very basic. It is advisory, and you know it does not have decision making authority. So this one is quite basic. Okay. Then comes our joint management councils. Okay, so the representatives of employers and workers, they meet up regularly to discuss various issues related to the organization, and the aim is to reach consensus upon those issues. Okay. And then comes workers participation in management. So WPIM then comes, wherein the aim is to give workers a say in the decision making process, which basically affects them. Okay, fine. And if we look at other two options, then comes our equity, worker share in equity, right? So by securing equity participation of the workers, we can again enhance their participation. And last here is workers representatives in the board. So whenever their representatives are made to sit in the board, then that is the most effective level of workers participation. So as per this, option D is the correct answer to this question. Okay, following on the steps followed by finance manager in procurement of loan for working capital. So in order to procure loan for working capital, what would be the steps followed by the finance manager? First of all, because you need to obtain loan for the working capital, the estimates regarding the working capital requirements have to be done, right? So think like this, from where we can start with. So only option which starts with C is B. So now you can check upon the other sequence as per this option. So it is going like so. Definitely after assessing the working capital requirements, we will submit the loan proposal. Suppose we are obtaining it from bank. Okay. And then what we have to do, verification of assets, right, based on which the loan would be procured. And then document execution for obtaining the loan would be done, and lastly, that is creation of charge on assets. So because of which the verification of asset was done, because we are procuring the working capital, so charge would be created on the assets against that loan. Okay, so correct option is B. Okay, identify the correct sequence of activities involved in the process of buyback of shares. So whenever any theoretical questions comes from company point of view, always remember that first of all board meeting would be held, and then shareholders meeting would be convened, and then the further processing would be there. So here we can check, here it is given that in order to start with the process of buyback of shares, we need to take the approval of the board. So we need to convene board meeting. Post that, we will take the approval of the shareholders through extraordinary general meeting, and then we will declare the solvency that this company is solvent. Then only it can proceed with buyback of shares. Okay, and what next? That is letter of offer to the shareholders, because the company wants to go for the buyback of the shares. So letter of offer has to be given to the shareholders. And lastly, there would be opening of bank account through which the funds would be secured for necessary buyback. Necessary funds would be secured for the buyback. Okay. So correct option is option C. Okay. Next is sequence the following in order to eliminate waste and inefficiencies in the lean manufacturing. So there is another question from the lean manufacturing. So if we sequence them out, what we will do, that is CISO. CISO is shine, right? Okay. And Sitsuk is sustain. Seri is sort. Sekitsu is standardize. And Cython is set in order. Okay, so first of all, if we arrange them in sequence, it will start from Seri, right? And then Cython will come. Everything has to be set in order. And then Siso, okay? And then Sikitsu. And last is to sustain. Sitsuk. Okay, so as per this, option D is the correct answer to this question. Okay, now the questions are based on comprehension. Okay, so if we go through the passage, we have to identify the correct answer. Practice of working. So this is basically a passage based on moonlighting. Okay, this is a recent concept which has been in discussion very much, right? So the practice of working for one organization while also taking up extra responsibilities and job with another requires. So from which line of the passage we can identify the correct answer? Here it is written. So trust is a core issue. Conflict of interest and intellectual property rights violations are non-negotiable. So here the answer is trust, conflict of interest, as well as intellectual property rights. Okay, so practice of working for one organization while also taking up extra responsibility with another. So you are doing job for one organization, but because you are sitting at home and you have procured the work from some other organization, so that is nothing but that is moonlighting. So here it requires basically trust, conflict of interest, intellectual property rights. So these are the issues which will be faced. Okay. So answer to this question is A. Next. Again, two of the statements are given. The practice of moonlighting is increasing because IT professionals are not being rewarded fairly. So if we go through the first passage of first paragraph of this passage, they says that it makes sense to encourage more flexibility to employees if these firms want to move up the value chain. So which step is welcoming? That is moonlighting. So here in the passage, nowhere it has been stated that the practice of moonlighting is increasing because IT professionals are not being rewarded fairly. Nowhere. So statement 1 is incorrect, right? Content of the employee contract have precisely defined the moonlighting. Again, statement 2 is saying that content of the employee contract that precisely defined the moonlighting. But in the last of the comprehension passage, if we check, here they are saying that a fair and broad-based definition of the moonlighting must be included in the employment contract. So in order to be, more fair, definition of moonlighting should be included in the employment contract. This is being told by the passage. But here it is saying that the contents of employee contract precisely define the moonlighting. So again, this is not supported by the passage. So both statements are incorrect. As per the passage, those employees who could not meet the skill gap were, so those who are unable to meet the skill gap, basically it is written, those who could not cope up with the expectations at the entry or middle levels were fired. So answer should be D to this question. Okay. Moonlighting encourages. So what does moonlighting encourages? So here they are saying flexibility, right? So flexibility to employees and it add up to their skills. Of course, if they are working for more than one firm, it would add up their skills, right? And work from home. So whenever there is work from home, there is opportunity for working with any other firm, right? Okay. So B, C, E. It means the correct option is D to this question. Okay. So nowhere in the passage it has been given commitment for the organization or employee turnover rate. Nowhere it is stated. Practice of moonlighting is basically it adds value to the organization. So again, this is supported by this passage, this first paragraph of the passage. Okay. So it adds value to the organization. Next question. The factor adversely affecting Indian. Okay. Now the passage has been changed. Another passage is given and it is on Indian aviation, right? So question says the factor adversely affecting Indian aviation is. So we have to find out factors adversely affecting Indian aviation. So if you go through the passage, we will be finding here it is written declining rupee. So although the industry's air traffic yields have surpassed pre-pandemic levels, fuel cost and a declining rupee could subdue earnings. So अर्निंग्स को कम कौन कर सकता है, एडवर्सली इफेक्ट कौन कर सकता है? अगर हम एयर फेयर कैप्स रिमूव कर देंगे, so it is going to positively affect Indian aviation. Softening of jet fuel prices. So if we soften up the fuel prices, then it is not going to adversely affect Indian aviation. So as per this passage, also this statement is supported. Declining value of the rupee against US dollar is going to adversely affect Indian aviation because it will lead to subdue earnings. Okay. So correct answer to this question is option C. Future of Indian aviation industry is likely to be, if you go through the whole passage and the last passage, specifically last para of the passage, it says Indian aviation enters another phase of growth. India is among the fastest growing aviation markets. So it is favorable, right? So answer to this question is A. Next question is, two statements are given in the form of assertion and reasoning. Pandemic is not the only reason for the losses in the aviation industry. So first check out whether this statement is correct as per this passage or not. And if we again go through the first paragraph of this passage, it says that Indian aviation will fly out of pandemic-induced fare bans with some of the heaviest losses. Indian flyers will also been through bout of technical glitches that the authorities have traced back to aircraft not having enough certifying manpower and flying with the minimum permissible list of defective equipments. So this is supported by this assertion is supported by this first paragraph. Okay, so it means there are other technical reasons for the losses in the aviation industry. It means both A and R are correct and R is the correct explanation of A. Okay. Option A. Which one of the following will impair the competitive intensity of the industry? So if you look at the first line of the second para of the passage, it says the industry is witnessing a round of capital infusion that also affects the competitive intensity. So answer to this question is capital infusion. Okay. Which of the following are the initiatives taken by the government to promote aviation industry? So the answer is supported by last paragraph of this passage. Big budget. Here it is written. Given the country's traffic growth projection, India Airlines are likely to acquire. The government on its part has a high budget for decongesting airports, right? Encouraging and is encouraging the development of domestic aircraft maintenance industry, right? And also your this thing also removal of airfare caps. These are the initiatives taken by the government to promote aviation industry. Okay, so answer is B to this question.
So question is, what kind of elasticity of demand is faced by the oligopolistic firm? तो elasticity of demand के बारे में पूछा है और उसका variation with price rise and price cut in the context of oligopolistic firm. तो oligopolistic firm क्या है? जहां पे firms जो है वो few हैं, यानी आपके sellers few हैं, but buyers बहुत ज्यादा हैं. ठीक है, बायर्स बहुत ज्यादा हैं. तो फ्यू फर्म्स हैं, यानी कुछ प्रोडक्ट्स हैं जो वेरी वेरी वेल एक्सेप्टेड हैं. अब इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड प्राइस से कैसे कनेक्टेड होगी, हम इसको एग्जांपल से समझते हैं. जैसे ए और बी है, ठीक है. तो ए ने अगर ए ने प्राइस बढ़ाया, अगर प्राइस राइज की बात करें तो ए ने अगर प्राइस बढ़ाया तो जाहिर सी बात है कि लोग बी पे शिफ्ट हो जाएंगे, बिकॉज दोनों ही प्रोडक्ट जो है वो इक्वली एक्सेप्टेबल हैं. जैसे पेप्सी और कोक हो गया, तो इसको अगर मैं पेप्सी कह दूं, इसको मैं कोक कह दूं, तो अगर पेप्सी ने प्राइस बढ़ाया तो लोग कोक पे आ जाएंगे और देयर इज अ हाई इलास्टिसिटी फॉर प्राइस राइज. बट जब प्राइस कट की बात हम जब करते हैं, तब क्या होता है कि अगर अगर कोक ने प्राइस कम किया तो साइमल्टेनियसली पेप्सी भी अपना प्राइस कम कर देता है, एंड देयरफॉर जो इलास्टिसिटी है डिमांड की वो वेरी ज्यादा नहीं करती है. सो दिस इज द ऑप्शन डी विच इज द करेक्ट आंसर. ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे आते हैं. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन सेज which of the following correctly explains the notion of consumer surplus? तो consumer surplus क्या होता है कि what consumer is willing to pay and what he actually paid. तो ऑप्शन ए में आप देखोगे डायरेक्ट आंसर है, तो इसको टिक करके आप आ जाएंगे. नेक्स्ट इज which one of the following can be the coping mechanism if the source of resistance to change is the fear of loss of power. तो loss of power का fear एक्चुअली क्या है, ये resistance to change है और coping mechanism है. कुछ 9 या 10 अलग अलग रेजिस्टेंस टू चेंज थे और उसका रिलेटेड कोपिंग मैकेनिज्म था. तो जो फियर ऑफ लॉस ऑफ पावर था वो रोल रीडेफिनेशन एंड रोल ओरिएंटेशन से कनेक्टेड था. ऑप्शन डी इसका सही आंसर है. इफ द एम्प्लॉयर्स एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स ट्रेड यूनियन इज ऑफ एक्सेप्टेंस, देयर बिहेवियर विल बी. थोड़ा सा जेनरिक है बट इसका आंसर सही है, बिजनेस लाइक. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि नाउ मैनेजमेंट जो है वो यूनियन को भी एक तरीके से बिजनेस डील समझ रहा है कि उनका भी एक अपने ऑब्जेक्टिव है, एंड लेट अस नाउ अचीव द ऑब्जेक्टिव टुगेदर. राइट, तो बिजनेस लाइक हो जाएगा ऑप्शन सी. नेक्स्ट इज विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग मार्केटिंग चैनल फंक्शन हेल्प्स टू फुलफिल द कंप्लीटेड ट्रांजैक्शन. ठीक है, तो कंप्लीटेड ट्रांजैक्शन करना है और हेल्प करना है. ठीक है, तो क्या है, ऑप्शन ए गैदरिंग एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटिंग इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट कंज्यूमर्स, इतना ज्यादा अप्रोप्रिएट नहीं है. रीचिंग एन एग्रीमेंट ऑन प्राइस एंड अदर टर्म्स, अगेन इतना अप्रोप्रिएट नहीं है. सी भी देखेंगे, कम्युनिकेटिंग विद प्रोस्पेक्टिव बायर्स, नो नॉट अ सॉल्यूशन. बट डी देखेंगे, अज्यूमिंग द रिस्क ऑफ कैरिंग आउट द चैनल वर्क. राइट, यही इसका करेक्ट आंसर है. तो इसमें क्या है, अज्यूमिंग द रिस्क, यानी रिस्क पहले तो क्या क्या काम हो सकते हैं कि इन्वेंट्री मैनेजमेंट है, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन है, पेमेंट फाइनलाइजेशन है, और एक तरीके से आप रिस्क ले रहे हो, उस काम की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले रहे हो. तो मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट आंसर इसका हो जाएगा ऑप्शन डी. आगे देखते हैं, अ पोर्शन ऑफ अ मार्केट दैट इज सो वेल सूटेड टू अ फर्म्स इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट दैट अदर फर्म्स आर नॉट लाइक टू चैलेंज एंड डिसलॉज, इट इज कॉल्ड, क्या कहते हैं इसको, प्रोपिशियस नीशे. ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं. एन अप्रोच टू कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रेटेजी इन विच टॉप मैनेजमेंट व्यू इट्स प्रोडक्ट लाइंस एंड बिजनेस यूनिट्स एज अ सीरीज ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट फ्रॉम विच इट एक्सपेक्ट्स अ प्रॉफिटेबल रिटर्न. डायरेक्ट डेफिनेशन है, क्या इसका सही आंसर है, पोर्टफोलियो एनालिसिस. आगे देखते हैं, द टोटल कंबाइंड कस्टमर लाइफ टाइम वैल्यूज ऑफ ऑल द कंपनी कस्टमर्स इज नोन एज कस्टमर इक्विटी. तो ऑप्शन ए इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा. विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इंडिकेट्स पेरिशेबिलिटी एस्पेक्ट ऑफ सर्विस कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स. तो सर्विस के कुछ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं जो इसको गुड्स से अलग कर देते हैं. पेरिशेबिलिटी क्या होता है कि इट कैन नॉट बी स्टोर्ड, इट कैन नॉट बी स्टोर्ड. तो सीधे सीधे ऑप्शन डी इसका सही आंसर हो जाता है कि इट इज डिफिकल्ट टू सिंक्रोनाइज सप्लाई एंड डिमांड विद सर्विसेज, क्योंकि वो स्टोर नहीं हो सकता. राइट, नेक्स्ट इज विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर द डिस्टिंक्टिव फीचर्स ऑफ बिग डेटा बीइंग यूज्ड इन एनालिटिकल सीआरएम। तो क्या क्या है? करेक्ट आंसर है इसका ऑप्शन है वॉल्यूम, वेराइटी, वेलोसिटी और वेरासिटी। क्या मतलब है इसका इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ बिग डेटा? वॉल्यूम माने कि ह्यूमंगस अमाउंट ऑफ डेटा है। वेराइटी माने हो गया कि देयर इज अ डाइवर्सिफाइड डेटा। वेलोसिटी माने है कि कितना जल्दी वो प्रोसेस होता है डेटा। वेरासिटी माने है कि कितना रिलायबल एंड एक्यूरेट है वो डेटा। तो ऑप्शन ए इज द करेक्ट आंसर। Next is which of the following events contributed most to the disruption in the Bretton Woods system? तो 1970s में ये आया था और जो मोस्ट रॉबर्ट निक्सन जो उस टाइम पे यूएस के प्रेसिडेंट थे उन्होंने डॉलर को गोल्ड से अलग कर दिया था और इसका करेक्ट आंसर हो जाएगा ऑप्शन सी विच इज सस्पेंशन ऑफ कन्वर्टिबिलिटी ऑफ डॉलर इनटू गोल्ड इन 1971। नेक्स्ट इज विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इंटीग्रेशंस इज रिलेटेड टू सुपरनेचुरल ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल स्ट्रक्चर। तो इसमें क्या है, इसमें कई कई सारे नेशंस हैं जो कुछ कुछ पार्ट अपनी सोवरेनिटी जो है वो सेंट्रल अथॉरिटी को दे देते हैं। इसे हम कहते हैं इकोनॉमिक यूनियन। राइट, ऑप्शन बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर। नेक्स्ट इज विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग विल फॉल अंडर द ग्रीवांसेस रिलेटेड टू प्रमोशनल कैटेगरी। अगर आप स्टेट्समेंट देखेंगे तो सीधे सीधे इंक्रीमेंट के अलावा बाकी सारे ग्रीवांसेस हो सकते हैं। और अगेन ऑप्शन बी, अगर हम ऑप्शंस में देखेंगे तो ए सी डी ई विच इज ऑप्शन डी। आगे देखते हैं विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स ऑफ ट्रेड यूनियन। तो ट्रेड यूनियन के कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट सीधे सीधे जो उनके एक्टर्स हैं उनकी बात कर रहा है। तो मेंबर्स होता है और एम्प्लॉयर्स होता है। और ठीक है, तो करेक्ट आंसर हो जाएगा इसका ऑप्शन है विच इज ए एंड बी। नेक्स्ट इज विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर द बेनिफिट्स फॉर द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ करियर मैनेजमेंट। तो करियर मैनेजमेंट की बात है, इंप्रूव परफॉर्मेंस नहीं होगा, इंप्रूव प्रोडक्टिविटी बिल्कुल होगा, इंक्रीज रिटेंशन ऑफ हाई टैलेंटेड एम्प्लॉयज ये भी इसका इफेक्ट है, डेवलपमेंट ऑफ कॉम्पिटेंसीज एंड पर्सनल स्किल्स ये भी नहीं होगा, बेटर इंडिविजुअल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मैच ये हो जाएगा। तो करेक्ट आंसर हो गया इसका बी सी एंड ई विच इज ऑप्शन बी। तो क्या है, परफॉर्मेंस हो गया या फिर पर्सनल स्किल्स हो गया या कॉम्पिटेंसी हो गया, ये एम्प्लॉय की नॉलेज और ट्रेनिंग पे डिपेंड करेगा, इसका करियर मैनेजमेंट से रिलेशन नहीं है। तो ऑप्शन बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर। विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स आर ट्रू इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ एफिशिएंट मार्केट। तो एफिशिएंट मार्केट थ्योरी क्या थी कि जो भी शेयर प्राइस है या फिर सिक्योरिटीज का जो प्राइस है वो एक्चुअली इनफ है टू रिफ्लेक्ट द इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द करंट अंडरलाइंग वैल्यू ऑफ द एसेट। ठीक है, और ये टाइम के संग खुद को एडजस्ट भी करता है। राइट, चेंजेस के संग खुद को एडजस्ट भी करता है। तो उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम देखते हैं तो ऑप्शन ए इसका स्टेटमेंट ए इसका एकदम बिल्कुल सही है कि इक्विलिब्रियम रेट्स ऑफ रिटर्न विल प्रिवेल, इन्वेस्टर्स कैन नॉट अर्न अ पॉजिटिव रिटर्न ये गलत है, वोलेटिलिटी की बात भी गलत है, सिक्योरिटीज ऑफ लिस्टेड फर्म सेल एट देयर फेयर वैल्यूज ये एकदम सही बात है, और लास्ट वाला भी गलत हो गया। तो ऑप्शन ए एंड डी इसका करेक्ट आंसर हो जाएगा विच इज ऑप्शन ए। नेक्स्ट इज विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर कंसीडर्ड इंटरलॉकिंग एलिमेंट्स ऑफ अ वर्सटाइल बिजनेस मॉडल। तो ये जॉनसन का मॉडल था। ठीक है, और इसमें इन्होंने बोला था कि कस्टमर वैल्यू प्रपोजिशंस के रिलेटेड तीन अलग अलग बातें करी थी विच इज रिसोर्सेस, प्रोसेसेस एंड प्रॉफिट फॉर्मूला। तो कस्टमर वैल्यू प्रपोजिशन भी हो गया, डी भी हो गया और ई भी हो गया। तो बी डी एन ई विच इज ऑप्शन डी। नेक्स्ट देखते हैं इंडियन नेशनल स्ट्रेटेजी फॉर फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन 2009-2024 एम सेट। तो ये आरबीआई की स्ट्रेटेजी थी जिसमें अलग अलग उन्होंने रेगुलेटरी एजेंसीज या गवर्नमेंट से इनपुट लिए थे और उसके बेसिस में सीधा फैक्चुअल करंट अफेयर्स का सवाल है। तो करेक्ट आंसर हो जाएगा ऑप्शन डी विच इज ए था, सी था और ई था। Next is which of the following circumstances favor sprinkle approach for launching products in international market। तो sprinkle approach क्या बताती है कि हम बहुत सारे मार्केट्स में, फॉरेन मार्केट में एक साथ अपना प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च कर दें। राइट, तो हाई रिस्क रहता है पर हाई रिवॉर्ड भी रहता है। ठीक है, तो उसके हिसाब से अगर हम देखें तो लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट इज रिलेटिवली शॉर्ट। ऐसा है तो आप बिल्कुल कर दो। द कॉम्पिटेटिव इंटेंसिटी ऑफ द मार्केट इज वेरी हाई विद स्ट्रॉन्ग एंड फियर्स कॉम्पिटिशन, बिल्कुल कर दो। कॉस्ट ऑफ एंट्री इन मार्केट इज रिलेटिवली हाई, अगर कॉस्ट हाई होगी तो हम साइमल्टेनियसली मल्टीपल मार्केट में कैसे एंटर कर पाएंगे, तो ये गलत हो जाएगा। फर्म हैज लार्ज रिसोर्सेज टू मैनेज साइमल्टेनियस प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च इन मल्टीपल, ये भी रिक्वायरमेंट है। ई है द साइज ऑफ द टारगेट मार्केट इज स्मॉल विद लो ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल, ये भी गलत हो जाएगा। तो ऑप्शन ए बी एंड डी। नेक्स्ट इज मैच द कॉलम में एक्विजिशन की बात करी है और उससे रिलेटेड स्ट्रेटेजी क्या यूज करनी है उसकी बात करी है। ठीक है, तो एक्विजिशन क्या है, एक्विजिशन ये होता है कि आप किसी कंपनी को एक्वायर करते हैं या उसके कुछ एसेट्स को एक्वायर करते हैं फॉर स्ट्रेटेजिक एडवांटेज। ठीक है, तो अगर ए का ऑप्शन देखें तो एक्वायर सिनर्जिस्टिक प्रोडक्ट मार्केट पोजीशन, तो ए के रिलेटेड अगर हम स्टेटमेंट देखेंगे तो तीन से रिलेट होता है ये कि अचीव स्केल ऑफ इकोनॉमीज ऑफ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन प्रोडक्शन एंड टेक्नोलॉजी। ठीक इसी प्रकार अगर एक्वायरिंग अ कंपनी विद अंडर यूटिलाइज फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रेंथ है, तो अगर हम वन ऑप्शन देखेंगे तो सीधा कहता है वो कि यूज बोरोइंग कैपेसिटी अंडर फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रेंथ, तो सीधे सीधे हम रिलेट कर पाएंगे। ठीक इसी प्रकार हम आगे भी जाते हैं तो हमें पता चलता है कि ऑप्शन ए इज द करेक्ट आंसर। आगे देखते हैं बायर्स नीड असेसमेंट क्वेश्चन और उसके एग्जांपल्स क्या हैं, यानी क्या नीड हमने असेस करी अपने एग्जांपल से, ये सवाल है। देखते हैं। तो अगर प्रॉब्लम इंपैक्ट की बात करी तो स्टेटमेंट 3 अगर देखें लिस्ट 2 में, व्हाट इफेक्ट्स डू द डिले इन रिसीविंग द मटेरियल्स हैव ऑन योर प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट, तो ये सीधे सीधे इंपैक्ट पूछ रहा है, तो ए का 3 हो जाएगा। अगर डी डी वैसे तो सही आंसर है ही। अगर बी है प्रॉब्लम डिस्कवरी क्वेश्चन, तो स्टेटमेंट 2 क्या कह रहा है, हैव यू एक्सपीरियंस एनी डिले इन गेटिंग दोज मटेरियल्स फ्रॉम योर करंट सप्लायर, यानी डिस्कवर कर रहा है वो, तो प्रॉब्लम डिस्कवरी क्वेश्चन बी का सेकंड हो जाएगा। ठीक है। थर्ड अगर देखें तो सॉल्यूशन वैल्यू क्वेश्चन, सॉल्यूशन की बात पूछ रहा है, तो फोर्थ स्टेटमेंट में इफ द रिजेक्शन रेट ऑन योर क्वालिटी इंस्पेक्शन इज रिड्यूस टू 1%, हाउ मच वुड दैट सेव यू, तो सी का 4 हो जाएगा। डी की बात करें सिचुएशनल क्वेश्चन क्या है, हाउ मच इन्वेंट्री ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट डू यू कैरी, राइट, तो सिचुएशन की बात है, तो इसीलिए इसका करेक्ट आंसर डी हो जाएगा। नेक्स्ट इज एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप थिंकर्स हैं और उनका लिस्ट में मैनिफेस्टेशंस है, काफी कठिन क्वेश्चन है क्योंकि इतना चीजें याद नहीं रहेंगी। सीधे सीधे इसका आंसर वैसे ए है, फैक्चुअल क्वेश्चन है कि ए का 4, बी का 1, सी का 3 और डी का 2। आगे देखते हैं। अरेंज द फॉलोइंग 6 सिग्मा प्रोसेसेस इन अ सीक्वेंस, तो 6 सिग्मा प्रोसेस के बारे में पूछा है, काफी पॉपुलर टर्म है, ये क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट से रिलेटेड होता है, राइट। तो इसका ये ऑब्जेक्टिव रहता है कि नॉट लेस देन, नॉट मोर देन, नॉट मोर देन 3.4 मिलियन, 3.4 डिफेक्ट्स पर मिलियन होना चाहिए, ये कुछ कुछ होता है। तो इसमें क्या होता है, इसमें हम क्या करते हैं, इसमें हम पहले डिफाइन करते हैं, उसके बाद उसको मेजर करते हैं, उसके बाद उसको एनालाइज करते हैं, उसके बाद क्या कहते हैं इंप्रूव करते हैं, देन फाइनली कंट्रोल करते हैं। तो उसके बेसिस पे हम सारे स्टेटमेंट्स अगर देखते हैं तो हमें ऑप्शन डी सही मिलता है, विच इज डी, बी, ई, एन, ए एंड सी। नेक्स्ट इज अरेंज द फॉलोइंग स्टेप्स ऑफ पर्सनल सेलिंग प्रोसेस इन अ सीक्वेंस, तो पर्सनल सेलिंग पूछा है, सीधे कस्टमर से कांटेक्ट करना है, तो बिल्कुल लॉजिकल देख लेंगे आपके। सबसे पहले आप क्या करोगे, आप सबसे पहले इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर करोगे, तो ऑप्शन बी देख लेते हैं। उसके बाद आप अपॉइंटमेंट लोगे कस्टमर से, ये भी देख लेते हैं। तीसरी चीज आप क्या करोगे, तीसरी चीज आप उसके नीड को डिस्कवर करोगे, राइट। उसके बाद आप देखते हैं कोई ऑब्जेक्शन हो तो उसको हैंडल करोगे, एंड देन फाइनली आप कमिटमेंट गेन करोगे टू एक्शन, विच इज ऑप्शन सी, बी, ए, डी, सी एंड ई। नेक्स्ट इज दो स्टेटमेंट है। पहला स्टेटमेंट, व्हेन आई से दैट आई लाइक माय ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आई एम एक्सप्रेसिंग एन एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स माय ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, बिल्कुल एटीट्यूड एक्चुअली प्री डिस्पोजिशन होता है टुवर्ड्स योर थिंकिंग, आप जो भी सोचते हैं उसका प्री डिस्पोजिशन है, दैट इज एटीट्यूड, तो बिल्कुल सही स्टेटमेंट है। वी कैन कंट्रोल आर बिहेवियर्स इन अ वे दैट डज नॉट रिफ्लेक्ट आर बिलीव्स एंड वैल्यूज, बिल्कुल ह्यूमन बींग्स अपने बिहेवियर को कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, पर अच्छा ये तो असर्शन रीजन है ही नहीं, और बोथ स्टेटमेंट आर करेक्ट, विच इज ऑप्शन ए। नेक्स्ट इज असर्शन एंड रीजन। असर्शन कहता है द ऑब्जेक्टिव फंक्शंस इन बिजनेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आर कॉम्प्लेक्स रिक्वायरिंग द प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ लार्ज वॉल्यूम ऑफ डेटा, बिल्कुल अगर आप क्वांटिटेटिव एनालिसिस करेंगे किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में तो आपको बहुत सारे डेटा को असेस करना पड़ेगा। एआई बेस्ड नॉन लीनियर मॉडल्स कैन सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ अराइविंग एट अ डायनामिक सॉल्यूशन टू बिजनेस प्रॉब्लम, ये भी बात सही है, पर ये उस प्रॉब्लम को नहीं सॉल्व कर रहा है, स्पेसिफिक होकर नहीं बता रहा है असर्शन को, तो बी इसका आंसर हो जाएगा कि बोथ ए एंड आर करेक्ट बट आर इज नॉट द करेक्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन। आगे देखते हैं। ए क्या कहता है, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप हैज इमर्ज एज अ फोकल पॉइंट ऑफ पॉलिसी इन द मेजॉरिटी ऑफ कंट्रीज, बिल्कुल सही बात है, एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन करता है ये, आप देखिए रीजन में सीधे दिया हुआ है, इट कंट्रीब्यूट्स इन जॉब जनरेशन, इनोवेशन, प्रमोट सोशल कोहेजन, तो बिल्कुल ए इसका हो जाएगा, बोथ ए एंड आर करेक्ट एंड आर इज द करेक्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ ए।
So in this question, they have given us corporate governance is to conduct business in accordance with the owner or shareholders desired was conceptualized by whom? This particular theory, this particular idea was given by Milton Friedman when he said that the entire purpose of corporate governance is to maximize profit for the shareholders. The next question talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he states the needs are of 5 kinds. The first one is physiological, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. This question is talking about which is not included in self-actualization, and the correct answer is status. The next question talks about job-related performance data to identify performance of an employee, and the keyword here is not. The correct answer to this is attitude service. Rest all of these things, grievances, absenteeism, late deliveries, they all are related. Okay, the next question talks about not an effect on performance, behavior, health. The correct answer is feeling sleepy all the time. This question talks about forecasting method for HR demand and not a qualitative method. The correct answer is Markov analysis. The next question is talking about characteristics of performance management, and the keyword over here again is a not. The correct answer is owned by HR department. Owned by HR department. The next question talks about using parent country nationals for international operations of an MNC, and that again talking about not an advantage. The correct answer is B, familiar with local norms and cultures. In the next question, they have given us a statement. A tennis player slams his tennis racket to the ground, disappointed by his or her game. They're asking you about what type of defense mechanism is being used to handle frustration. This is aggression, basic definition, basic example of aggression. The next question talks about entrepreneur is an innovator playing. This was articulated by whom? This was articulated by Joseph Schumpeter. Next question talks about string of activities that move a product from raw material stage to manufacturing and distribution and to end user. This is a very straightforward basic definition of value chain. Definition of value chain. This question cannot get any easier. The next talks about a metaphor used for time period in which a firm can realistically enter a new market. And this only comes when the firm has invested enough time and money into R&Ding a new product and they have a competitive advantage over their competitors. This particular metaphor is window of opportunity. The next question talks about the psychological factors of an individual behavior. Psychological factors, basic. So what are your psychological factors? Perception is a psychological factor, value and attitude. Economic status and emotional intelligence are in the factors. So the correct answer is B. The next question talks about traits of successful leaders. What are the traits of successful leaders? They need to be creative? Yes, but not in the entirety. Assertive? Absolutely correct. They need to be assertive. They need to be decisive. They need to have self-confidence. So the correct answer is D. So the next question talks about the 3 levels of training in Six Sigma model. The 3 levels in the training are yellow, green, and black. And these are given your B, C, and E. Correct answer. Straightforward question. These aren't very tough. These are straightforward questions. UGC wanted you to have a give. They wanted you to be able to answer these questions. These were that straightforward. The next talks about digital marketing statements which are correct. So correct statements, click-through rate is calculated by dividing total number of clicks by total number of ad impressions. Absolutely correct. Long tail keywords are general keywords which draw lower consumer traffic. No. AdWords is Google earned search marketing program. No. Search engine marketing includes both search engine optimization and paid search. Absolutely correct. And ad auction is the process Google runs for every search. This is absolutely correct. So A, D, and E, which gives you answer D. The next talks about data warehousing. What is data warehousing? Data warehousing is collection of all the data from different aspects of a business so that the decision making process can be made easier. So the correct statements are must be acceptable to regulator and business community. Absolutely correct. Secure bastion that protects the information. Again correct. Adaptive to change. Correct. So A, D, and E, option C is correct. The next, again, a technology-based question, differentiator among smaller business enterprises? Yes, absolutely. Cannot create value? No. Pace of technology affects the business model? Absolutely correct. Need and goals defined? Correct. Organization pay little interest to the process of change? Again, correct. So the correct answer is A. Only the statement which is given, technology cannot create value for non-profit organization, is wrong. The next is a match the following question. Directive style. What is directive style? Directive style talks about low tolerance of ambiguity. What is analytical style? Analytical style talks about high tolerance for ambiguity and rational way of thinking. Conceptual style talks about high tolerance for ambiguity and intuitive way of thinking, which gives behavioral low tolerance for ambiguity. The correct answer is A. Okay, so in this question, they have talked about personality factors with bipolar dimension. So what is social boldness? If you have to match it, it is venturesome versus timid. Abstractness talks about imaginative versus practical. Private talks about shrewd versus forthright. And perfectionism talks about controlled versus casual, which is given in option D, The next one talks about the Brio framework criteria with HR domains. So where does value land us? Value lands us in empowerment programs. Where does rareness lands us? Edge in terms of skills and technology. Where does imitability lands us? Imitability lands us in unique history and culture. An organization is all about teamwork. So the correct answer is A. Okay, so this question talks about the KM model with its approaches. So Van Korg and Koos gave us what? When Corgan Roos gave us what? They gave us organizational epistemology. Wig, Wig gave us semantic network. Monaka gave us spiraling, and Chu gave us sense making. So the correct answer is C. The next question talks about the correct sequence of steps involved in decision making for a change in technology. So the first step will be evaluating what the state of present technology is. Second will be initial comparisons. Third will be identifying the requirements, and then we'll talk about the financial feasibility, and finally listing down the post implementation issues that might happen. So the correct answer is B.